As we'll see, that was part of it. That's what we mentioned, the machlokes to Rambam and Tosas regarding whether you make a new shechiyanu on the day of Purim. We all know at the night of Megillah we make a shechiyanu. The question is in the morning. The Rambam and the Sfardim no, Tosas yes. So some Achronim explain the issue that if you hold that we hold that the morning is the Iker Kriya, that's where the other mitzvahs Hayomar, and therefore, whether it's Midivrei Kabbalah or it's a higher level Chiyav, but therefore the Shechiyanu you make the night before doesn't work, it's a higher level Chiyav, and therefore it's a new Shechiyanu. While the Rambam apparently holds that it's the same level, the same Shechiyanu, the same Kriya on the night before, it's the same as during the day, and the one Shechiyanu covers it. So we were discussing, that's where it came up, the issue of Divrei Kabbalah and Rabbanan. So someone asked me about women, so we'll continue, we'll tie it into the question of Nashim Chayavis for Mikra Megillah. The Gemara in Megillah tells us, Daf Daled, that, I think it's Rav Shua ben Levi, Nashim Chayavis for Mikra Megillah, Sha'afein Hayu Ba'oso Anes. And so the Rush and Tosas point out, Mikan, from here to this Gemara, it's mashma that women can read the Megillah for men, because women are chayav in Mikra Megillah, men are chayav in Mikra Megillah, so it would follow that women could learn the Megillah for men. However, the Rush quotes and Tosas quotes at the end, they quote the Shitas HaBahag, the Baal Hilchos Gedolos, who says no, women cannot read the Megillah for a man. And the lashon of the Rush is, and we'll have to explain this, but that because men are chayav in Kriyas HaMegillah and women are only chayav in Shmi, even though the Gemara uses a lesson of Kriyas HaMegillah, but the Rush quoting the Baal Hilchos Gedolah says because the men are chayav in Kriya while women are only chayav in Shmi. So what exactly does that? It's clear that Bahag says women can't do lane for men. What does that mean exactly? So here you have a major discussion in the Achronim. What's the pshat in the Hilchos Gedolos? What's the problem? What problem does the Hilchos Gedolos have that women reading Megillah for a man? So the Marcheshes, the Har Tzvi quotes that the Marcheshes writes based on another Gemara. There's another famous Gemara. See, there are many similarities between Chanukah and Purim. In fact, the Rambam puts them together and he compares a lot of Chanukah and Purim. So if you have two opposite things, it's no big deal to find the differences. But when you find something similar, so when you have differences, it's much more telling. So one of the differences between Chanukah and Purim is Chanukah, we know we say Hallel every day of Chanukah. It's one of the 18 days. It's 8 of the 18 days that we say a full Hallel. And Purim, we don't say Hallel. The question is, why not? If Chanukah we have a Hallel, and usually Purim and Chanukah are similar, and it seems to be a day of Simcha, so why is there no Chiyuv to say Hallel on Purim? The Gemara tells us 3 answers. The first answer the Gemara gives is because it depends where it happened. That Chanukah happened in Eretz Yisrael, Purim happened in Chutz La'aretz. And the klal is, you only say Hallel on a miracle that happened in Eretz Yisrael, not in Chutz La'aretz. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? What about Yitzias Mitzrayim? Last I checked, the Exodus from Egypt happened outside of Israel. So what do you mean that there's no Hallel? The Gemara says, you're right, it's accounting season now, tax season, the grandfather clause. But you're right, it's only once that Yeshua took the Jews into Eretz Yisrael. Of course we had it from the time of Abraham, but until Yeshua came in and the Jews actually went in, that's when Eretz Yisrael becomes a problem. But before you have Eretz Yisrael, so it's okay to say Hallel on Nisim anywhere. That's the first shot in the Gemara. The second shot in the Gemara is Kriyasa Zu Halela. What do you mean? We do say Hallel. What do you mean we don't say Hallel on Purim? We did say a different type of Hallel. It's called Megillas Esther. And the third answer is Akate Avdei Achashverosh Anan. That it's true we are free, but it's not enough to be free. And you can read Rabbi Hecht's article in the Tribune about freedom and democracy. But it's not enough to be free, that you have to be Avdei Hashem and not Avdei Paro. That's only the Jews were able to say Hallel, Leil Pesach, or whatever they said it, is because they were no longer Avdei Paro, they became Avdei Hashem. But even though we were free from the Gzeira, Lahashmi, Laharis Kol Yehudim, nevertheless, we were still under the dominion of Achashverosh, and therefore we can't say Hallel. So 3 answers in the Gemara, they all some are fundamentally different. In other words, according to answer number 1, fundamentally it's not a day to say Hallel. The nace doesn't warrant a Hallel. According to the answer number 2, Kriyas Halela, it does warrant Hallel when doing Hallel. And answer number 3 is like 1 in the sense that it's just not something which warrants a Hallel. So there's a famous comment of the Meiri on this. So the Meiri raises the question, what happens if you live in a small town, big town, any town, and you can't get to a Megillah Esther, you can't read Megillah that year on Purim. So the question is, do you say Hallel or not? Should I say Hallel? Because Pashas Kriyas Zu Halela, so Meiri says yes. The Meiri says if you can't get a Megillah Esther, then read Hallel, like the Gemara says, Kriyas Zu Halela. Yet we don't pass them like this Meiri. But why not? It seems to be a very cogent argument that we should say Hallel. So why don't we say Hallel? So that's what the Mefarshim point out, that there are different types of Hallel. So we know there's Hallel HaMitzri. There's basically 2 types of Nisim. The Hallel of Yitzias Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, the Nisim Nigla, when God breaks the laws of Teva in order to do miracles. And then you have, we know the Purim miracle, even though it's a whole discussion, but Pashas, that's why it's the only book in Tanakh that doesn't have God's name in it, Haster Panim Esther, that God was working behind the scenes. And therefore, it was a different type of nace. So that's what the Mefarshim point out, is the reason why we don't say Hallel on Purim, even if we don't have the Megillah, because that's a different type of Hallel. The Hallel of Hallel Mitzri, that's about breaking the laws of Teva and all that. But the Hallel Megillah Esther is recognizing God behind the scenes through nature. So therefore, it's an inappropriate Hallel. And as the Meiri writes, you can do it. But that's on this Gemara. This is a whole discussion. We could save it for Yom HaAtzmaut, but it is where the whole issue comes up. Not just Yom HaAtzmaut, but in terms of any time when you say Hallel on an anniversary of an ace. So we all know Hallel b'Shas Nes, that's Daraisa. So in 1948, let's say there weren't too many questions. But the question is, what about 49, 50, or any other thing? Is the Hallel on the anniversary of a miracle, is that Daraisa D'Rabbanan? So that's a famous dispute between the Chasam Sofer and the Netziv. The Chasam Sofer, they both have the sources. The Chasam Sofer says it's Daraisa, not only b'Shas Nes, but every year after, it's a Chi of Daraisa. And the Netziv says no, the Netziv writes only the first year is Daraisa, all the other years it's only it's a Din D'Rabbanan. So whether, again, there's many other issues, whether you say how on Yom HaAtzmaut or not, but assuming you think having Eretz Yisrael is a good thing and everything that comes along with it, so then assuming do you say how with the bracha or not? Or, do you say how at all? But if you're going to say how, do you make a bracha? So it comes out to be a machloket in the Netziv and the Chasam Sofer. According to the Chasam Sofer, yeah, it's a deraisa. I don't need anyone to tell me to say Hallel. No one tells me to put on tefillin every morning. No one told me to eat matzah. I know I have to do it. But if you hold it to Din D'Rabbanan, so the Lashon of the Meiri is Ein Lo Ela Takana. What could you need a takana? So it would be a machlokes to Chasam Sofer and the Tziev Safek Brachos L'Hakel, depending on many other factors. That's one of the things that would come down to whether you make assuming you are saying Hallel in the first place, would you make a bracha? But it seems to be working with this Meiri that according to the Chasam Sofer, it's the right, so there's nothing to talk about. But according to the Netziv, then you have an issue. Maybe you need a takana d'Rabbanan. So getting back to here, so we said the second shot of the Gemara is Kriyas Zu Halela. That Kriyas HaMegillah is the Hallel. So therefore comes along the Mar Chesed and says the following: we know women are putter from Hallel. As a general rule, it's the whole discussion, Rashi, Tosas, and Brachas, whether it's Daraisa D'Rabbanan, but Hallel, the women are putter from Hallel. So the Marchesha says, this is the pshat in the Bahag. You know why the Bahag says that women can't read Megillah for men? How's the core holding of the Megillah defined? The problem is, there's a second component of Megillah, and that's the Hallel. So since a woman is exempt from Hallel, she can't be motzi the man in Megillah. That's the way the Marcheshes learns. Therefore, according to that...
Why is a woman...
So in general, she's putter is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Why is she putter in...
Why is it a mitzvah saseh shazman grama?
But Megillah, Hallel.
So she's making we're starting with the assumption that a woman is putter in Hallel.
Right, isn't that the assumption?
Why?
From where? That tells
me that the
Hallel. Whatever the chiyuv is.
Okay, what's the reason why we accept that?
Mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Why is it Hallel a mitzvah saseh shazman grama?
How's it different than any of the other mitzvahs sayom that it would be mitzvah?
We'll get to that.
But she's not being multi in Hallel. I'm going to say Hallel myself. So why is that?
I think the question is only works with the kana. If the Hallel is governed by the nest, it's not mitzvah shazman grama.
But
if you say it's the kana of Chazal to say it on Hanukkah, then you can say it's mitzvah shazman grama. But you say the nest.
That's the assumption. That's the assumption the Mefarshim are making, that it's a kana to say Hallel on Purim. It wasn't one of the 18.
Well, how's that a sieve learning? If the next year you have a chiyuv d'oraisa, you should have said Hallel. How did it get undone?
What do you mean? Well, next year, who says you have a... That's the question. According to the Netziv, the whole chiyuv is only b'shas neis. Who says you have a chiyuv the following year to say Hallel?
Sorry, wasn't it in the Netziv that said that you have the chiyuv comes by itself?
No, that's the Chasam Sofer.
Oh, sorry, I mixed them up. Okay, so that's Sam Sofer.
Right.
So how did it get undone?
You mean on Purim? Or are you saying...
On Purim.
No, that's because the Gemara already, it never got started because the Gemara already nixed Hallel on Purim.
On the first year?
Oh, well, maybe the first year they did say Hallel.
I'm just saying that, I'm just trying to picture the Metzia. So I understand his svara, but what is he saying? So they said it the first year, and then they came along. I'm not sure who came along and said, "Don't say it because the Megillah takes care of it."
Right, right. So I guess it could be, right, historically speaking, it's a good question. Maybe you could say they said it the first year, because Pashas they didn't make, who says they made Purim right away? Like, in fact, that's the Ramban in the beginning of Megillah. He talks about, I touched on it last week, about why is it Yudalit and Tezvav. So he says the first year, everyone celebrated Purim, Yudalit, Tezvav, and the next year when they wanted to make this, whether Yantif or Hafsu, whatever exactly they were doing, so the Walti said, well, we don't need to anymore. We were never really involved in the sakana. So when they made the takana drabanan the next year or 2 years later.
It's so strange to undo it. Since it was never before, like the Netziv, you understand. So they came along and said, we're not going to do it because we were going to do the Megillah instead. If they already did it, to undo it, that's sounds kind of.
Two different things.
Sounds a little extreme.
They didn't have the Megillah either.
So when they added the Mikra Megillah, they took away the...
The first Hallel was nothing to do with the day Purim. It was
Hallel with the Shas Neis.
It was a Shas Neis. It's not tied to this one.
What do you mean they didn't have a Megillah to begin with?
The first Purim, they didn't have a Megillah.
Well, Gerusha Purim has
they wrote it after they won.
Yeah, they won.
When they actually won, they celebrated.
They can't write it before they won.
That's the whole point. And the day that they won, it wasn't Purim, it was the victory.
No,
the first time saying it's not tied to the day.
The first time, the Chassam Sofer is saying that right after the miracle happens, that's when you have, there's a year later.
Right, first of all, they're not necessarily saying it about this. I'm saying their general, the sheet is, the Chassam Sofer holds even the anniversary.
The first anniversry.
Yeah.
Is the Doraisa.
Yeah, and then the
first
second,
anniversary,
third, fourth.
they did say it.
That's first anniversary, so by then they had a Mikra Megillah, so Chassam Sofer, but even at the first time when they responded...
That wasn't because that was the Hallel b'Shas Neis. It's Hallel because of the miracle. Later.
Still, it's
right. But I'm saying that's just right. They aren't necessarily discussing this. Right, but it's a good question how it worked out.
But the Hallel b'Shas Neis might be a chiyuv on the women as well.
That is. I'm assuming. Right.
Only when it's an anniversary.
I'm saying the post all assume women are exempt from Hallel in general is man grama. I mean, I'm not saying.
The first one.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not saying a chiddush here. I'm just saying that's what everyone, all the sperm say.
But I'm not so clear in it because. Yes, in isolation.
No, but I'm going to get into different because we'll see it's a good question. Why are they put from Hallel? Why should? Because we see Apein. We're going to see there's a difference between Apein.
Either you're going to have Apein.
No, because the Gemara only says it by 3 mitzvahs. The Gemara only says it by Mikra Megillah, by Ner Chanukah, and Dalet Kosas. That's what the Rav has a whole shtickle, the Chasim Sofer. That obviously every mitzvah, like tefillin, any mitzvah has a little bit of Apein. In other words, they were involved in the miracle of Sukkah. In other words, but by those 3 mitzvahs, its whole essence was pursuing Nisa. That the whole takana its whole essence was pursuing, as opposed to the other ones that have an aspect of it, but that was like secondary, therefore women are putter. That's what they say. In other words, even
why is Dalet Kosas pursuing Nisa?
No, that's a further question in the, how you explain Dalet Kosas. How it goes. Maybe we'll get to on Pesach when we get closer to Pesach. We'll discuss it. But that's what they discuss. That's why. Because that's what the Rambam writes. The kol shechem by when an ani has to sell the stings.
Right.
Yeah. So Dalet Kosas is the hardest of the 3, but they discuss that because other ones are the etzem, the Ner Chanukah is like the chefs of the miracle, the Megillah. It's all good questions. They discussed that. But I'm saying but the bottom line is women are putter from Hallel. It's a good question. Why are they? But I'm saying it's a given that they are. And then it's not the question is maybe they are. I'm saying I agree. They are exempt. But the question is why not? It's a good question. And that's what they point out. We'll see. It's only to be a secondary function. So according to the Marcheshes, he's saying
because they're using that as a step and saying since they're already exempt, so presumably that component of the Megillah they can't.
Right. That's what he's saying. That's his chiddush. Yeah. That the Marcheshes is saying. And therefore, but based on this, we know we don't say Hallel at night. I'm just saying Marcheshes doesn't say this. I'm just thinking aloud. If this is the reason, so we normally don't say Leil Pesach's an exception to the rule. If that's the case, then so the night of Purim, presumably if we work with the Marcheshes and the Balchas Gdolas, there wouldn't be a problem for a woman to read the Megillah for a man.
Would the Meiri allow the reading of the Hallel at night instead of the Megillah if you didn't have, or we're making the assumption it's only a daytime?
What do you mean? Oh, if you didn't,
you don't have the Megillah at night.
That's only day.
Can you?
Look, I assume because that was a later takana than that. I don't think the Meiri only talk about during the day.
Right, but the Meiri talking about where you're at look. There's no Hallel on Purim anyways, right? So Mimanashah. So according to the Meiri, the whole concept is you can say Hallel instead of the Megillah.
Right, but even he would say.
So you see that.
But even he would say, right, you'd only say it during the day when Hallel exists.
Well, see, just like there is no Hallel according to the Meiri during the day, and yet you can still make a Hallel to be fulfilling the Megillah. So then, why would it be a difference even at night?
But the Meiri doesn't know that. There is a Hallel during the day. It's Mikra Megillah of the day is the Hallel. The Mikra Megillah
right, but there is no Hallel.
No, but the point is.
But that's because
but the point is that
the Mikra Megillah at night.
It's a different type of. That's not a Hallel the night of Pesach. That's a separate. We'll get. That's a separate. According, that's what I mentioned also last week. That what did the B'nai Hakfarim do when they came in on Yom Sheni v'Chamishi? What they do the night before? So some versions there was none. That was a later takana. And so therefore, even the Meiri wouldn't say that about the nighttime. I hear what you're saying, but the Meiri is saying.
So you're going to allow a woman to read the Megillah for the night?
No, I'm just saying. I'm not.
No, according to what comes out of the Marcheshes.
I'm not finished yet, but according to the Marcheshes, I'm just saying. I'm not saying the Marcheshes himself would say. I'm just saying based on Svara Yeshara, at least to me it's Svara Yeshara, that if that's the reason, if the only problem with the woman reading the Megillah for man is the Hallel, then I'm assuming the night wouldn't be a problem. That's all I'm saying. That's the Marcheshes.
Well, saying the Mikra Megillah at night, which is a later Zera.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with Hallel, and therefore that's all I'm pointing out.
I could make an argument that based on the Meiri that wouldn't get you out of that problem. I hear what you're saying. But there is no. It's not like there was a halal. It's like let's say there was a tefillah of halal.
Right.
So you'd say, you know what, during that tefillah, have in mind, and then you'll be out to the Megillah, right?
No, it's the other way around. Okay, no, you can't. But you're saying theoretically that way. Okay.
No, it's exactly because it's reversed from what you would expect that
Yeah.
we have no problem.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the Marcheshes. According to the Turi Even says along the lines we were saying last week.
Marqueshes doesn't fit into the language of the.
I know, I point out none of them do until the Avnei Nezer will be
Right.
the best one in terms of
In terms of what,
the language. No, because the language. Yeah.
Fit to the
The
Bahag.
Bahag. The Bahag says.
The Shmiya
Right. The Bahag uses the language Kriya versus Shmiya, exactly how the Marcheshes saw this pet. I like it's interesting Lamdit. I don't see how it fits into the words of the Bahag. Well, see, the only one will be the Avnei Nezer, which I'll get to in a couple of minutes. The second pshat also is the Turi Even. He's not going to fit into the words either. He makes a distinction between D'Rabbanan and Divrei Kabbalah. He says, let's just forget about this. For men, let's say, men are chayev in Megillah because of the Megillah Esther, Divrei Kabbalah. But even the nighttime, there is no chayev to read Divrei Kabbalah at night. That's definitely only a din D'Rabbanan. And in fact, that's why the same shayla would be also, can a bar mitzvah boy read Megillah Esther? So we know we have a big shayla Parsha Zachar. Can a bar mitzvah boy read? Because we know in general bar mitzvah boy does read the Torah. However, because it's based on Chazaka the Rava, that we only based on Chazaka that he's bar mitzvah. Because it's only a D'Rabbanan, Kriyas Torah, Safik D'Rabbanan Lakula. However, about mitzvah by on Parashat Zachar probably shouldn't be reading Parashat Zachar. I think in fact, Rabbi Mordechai Wolf, two of his sons, I think got bar mitzvah on Parashat Zachar. I think he said he read Parashat Zachar. But that's a shayla Parashat. You shouldn't read your bar mitzvah should not be reading Parashat Zachar because it's a sveik on the deraisa. What about a bar mitzvah boy reading Megillah Esther? So the post can point out a simile. During the day, you shouldn't read it either because perhaps Divrei Kabbalah can Divrei Torah dummy, and therefore al chumrah a bar mitzvah boy should not be reading the Megillah during the day. But they don't spell this out, or maybe they do. But again, based on that, but the nighttime shouldn't be a problem unless you want to get into trade D'Rabbanan. But the nighttime shouldn't be a problem because the whole Chi of Megillah is only D'Rabbanan. So perhaps a bar mitzvah boy can read the Megillah. Again, I'm not saying it's halacha l'maisi, but I'm saying al pi svara.
At night, there's a difference.
It's only a chi of D'Rabbanan. So a bar mitzvah boy is on the.
When the Mishnah says five of them, the
right.
Nice boy.
Right. And then what's the so then the Siv writes another that it's just like a practice session. The ikar is during the day, and you want to make sure it's. See, it's not like
That's not the lashon of the Mishnah.
I know,
the
but that's what
the exact opposite.
I know, but
the Mishnah is ba, right?
Right.
Sounds like the first one is
right,
the
right. You're right. If I just had the Gemara, I would say that, but we know that the ikar is during the day, based on other like they make the hekesh to the Suda and all that. So they point out that the Megillah reading, right? So they point out the Megillah reading during the day is the ikar based on the other mitzvahs hayom. So is what you just asked me. What were you just asked me a question? Laser. What were you just asking me?
I just did. No, you.
I know I was about to say something, but I forgot because you asked me the question. I was thinking what I was about to say. Okay, but either way, so the bar mitzvah boy then again presumably could do the night before because it's that's what I was saying. That's what it's right. It doesn't fit into the language, but he says that by davening, it's enough just to read the davening and it's okay. But even though, probably strictly speaking, if you read the Megillah in Lashon Kodesh, you don't say, but you're lacking. Pursume Nisa means you're really supposed to know what's going on. So therefore, you have a practice run the night before, so you can know it better during the day. But either way, everyone agrees that the ikar is during the day, opposite of the North American minig that everyone comes to Megillah the night for the big parties, and not too many show up the next morning. But the ikar is the one during the day. So the bar mitzvah boy again. So the question is, what about according to the Turi Even, same thing by women then? So what's the problem? The problem is only during the morning. But according to the Turi Evan's pshat, a woman should be able to read the Megillah for a man, because even the man's obligation is only midrabanan. So that's the second shot. Again, it doesn't seem to fit into the words of the Bahag, but that's what he says the Bahag means. And you always have a conflict. In general, machlokas are always, the text is if the text and the lam is in the same direction, there won't be any machlokas. But you have different mafarshim. Some go with the text more literal, and others go with, well, I don't care what it says. It's ridiculous. It can't mean that. I'll tell you what it means. So either way, so the third shot is in the Or Sameach. The Or Sameach, again, I don't see it in the words either, but the Or Sameach says that, because you know why a woman can't read a Megillah? You know what the Bahag is getting at? Because we know there's a mitzvah. As we next Shabbos, we'll have a mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek, and as well there's a mitzvah of Mechias Amalek. It's a whole discussion in the Ramban and others whether the mitzvah of Zechira is connected to Mechia, to independent mitzvahs, different monei mitzvahs count differently. So the Or Sameach says that part of based on Kosvos Os Sefer, you learned that from the Psukim, that he says that part of the kiyum of Mikra Megillah is, some of Harshim say, it's part of the kiyum of Zechiras Amalek, Mechias Amalek, so women are exempt from Mechias Amalek, and therefore that's why a woman can't read the Megillah for a man. In other words, so three different explanations, nothing to do with the words of the Baal Hilchos Gedolos, but all explaining what is the woman lacking. And either according to the Marchesha, she's patur from Hallel, and that's why man has to do it. And of course, the Eitzah is let the woman read the Megillah, and then the man say Hallel. But okay, so then you have the Turi Evin, you have Divrei Kabbalah versus Drabanan, but again, the night before also would be a woman can read the Megillah and the Bar Mitzvah boy. And we have the third thing of the Or Sameach. If that's true, so then it should apply to both of them then, and he has to make that distinction between the both. But the fourth thing is the Avnei Nezi. He's the only one who focuses on the words.
So what's that? And so the Mechias Amalek goes into this whole Minchas Chinuch about women taking part in war, or not getting into that?
Yeah, so that's right. It ties in, right? So it ties into, because it's the whole right. The Sefer Achinach writes the women are patur from the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek goes on because the Labnei B'chaman, but then Minchas is what are you talking about? It's a Mishnah in Sota, that Chassan, Vakalo. Yeah, so that's the whole discussion there in terms of.
I understand how he says that the actual reading is in Indian Mechias Amalek. I mean, unless you say
no, it's not.
Mechias Amalek is tied to Mechias.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's a key. It's not. Obviously, it's not the ikr. It's totally into that, and that's what. Yes, the whole shtickle. Maybe we'll have time afterwards to Rav Chaim on that Mechias Amalek. But so the Turi Evin says like this. I mean, the Avnei Nezer. The Avnei Nezer says as follows. He says, first he says a klal, he says it's true. He says, for Pursumei Nisa, the concept of Pursumei Nisa must be for the Hamonah. In other words, it has to be something, it can't just be for the elite, for the people who learned in Velej and Yeshiva. It has to be for the average person, has to know what's going on here. So what does that have to do with anything? So he says like this. He says, if let's say you ask the average person on the street, what happened with Havdalah? How were you Yotzei Havdalah last week? Most people, well, I heard it from my father, or I heard it from whoever, or a Kiddush. But if you're a real Lamdin, Shomei Kaona, which is a Chakir itself in Shomei Kaona, but the Kiddush of Shomei Kaona, always one shot is, the way the Avdinez is working for now, is that not just you and Yotzi Zushmiya, you actually read the Megillah, or let's say I actually made Kiddush. Everybody made Kiddush. You're all chayiv and you're not chayiv in hearing Kiddush, you're chayiv in saying Kiddush, and therefore that's the Kiddush of Shomei Kaona. But the Hamonam, no one sees, but the average person says, how will you fulfill your mitzvah Megillah Esther? Well, I heard it from the Baal Koreh. No one's saying they heard it. So therefore, the Avnei Nezer is saying for pursuing Nisa to work, it has to be something. He says if the mitzvah was kriya, so then he says he's saying the mitzvah has to be shmiya. I mean, he's saying what he's learning trying to go nashim chayavim b'mikra apein hayu ba'osu anes. That women are chayav because the pursuing Nisa. That's why they're only chayiv in Shmiya. Persumei Nisa is something for the Hamonan that everyone really recognizes what's going on. No one knows they're reading the Megillah. The average person, everyone knows we're hearing the Megillah. That's the Persumei Nisa. So he says, Men chayiv not only in the Shmiya, or at least the chayiv in the Kriya. They have to actually read the Megillah. But women are only chayiv in the Shmiya. That's what he wants to fit into the words of the Hilchos Gedolah, that since women are chayiv apein hayu ba'oso anes, that's the din in Shmiya, because everyone, that's what it looks like to the average person. And that you can't. He's saying you can't have Persumei Nisa when no one knows what's going on. Persumei Nisa has to be something recognizable. If you assume that Yisod, where he gets that, so then he's saying that's how he learns Pshat in the Baal Hilchos Gedolah. Again, so it might fit in the words. It might be difficult in terms of where you can argue on his Yisod, but at least his fits in better textually to the Shmiya. And in fact, that gets them back into the, what does the Gemara mean? Nashim chayav sha'afhein hayu. What's the mechayev of Kriyas HaMegillah? So Pashas, the mechayev for men is not because afhein hayu b'os hanes, even though they were. They have a chiyuv of Megillah. But some say, what's afhein hayu b'os hanes is, it's a chiyuv klali. In other words, we have this, Achronim talk about it all the time, by Chatzi Shir, by Abizrayu. In other words, let's say you have a Chatzi Shir of treif. So did I violate a din of Chatzi Shir, or did I violate a din of treif? Or the Abizrayu, the Avodah Zarah, all these Abizrayu. That could be the Machokas there. Rashi, Ramban, the Machokas by the Cheda Egel. How come, how could Aaron help? Wasn't it Abizrayu, the Avodah Zarah? So that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, the Emes Yaakov writes, that's in the Kudas Hama, he gives the Lumdis, the other the Kudas. What's Pshat and Abizrayu? Is it a separate, is that a din in Avodah Zarah? It's not a din in Avodah Zarah. Lifnei Iver to Avodah, not Abizrayu, Lifnei Iver to Avodah Zarah. Is it a Lifnei Iver Choli? Does it make a difference whether it's Shabbos, Avodah Zarah, I violate Lifnei Iver, or no? Do you say it's Prati, that it takes on, you violated of that specific mitzvah? So it's discussed by Afhein Hayu B'os Hanes. That's the general. The chayav is not chayav in Megillah. That's a quality that they were involved in the miracle. So then, because they're involved in the miracle, so the Megillah comes in afterwards. But that's what the Brisker Rav gets into, whether is it a Zman Grama or not. Because if it's Afhein, what's the mechayev of the Megillah? Is it because it was like the Takana D'Rabbanan, or it's not? It's Afhein. So along those lines, but getting back to Avnei Nezer, he fits into the words. It's difficult, his Yisod, whether you could ding zach on the Yisod, but he says it has to be something which is recognizable, nicker to everyone, that what you're doing that's Persumei Nisa, and that's what Afhein Hayu B'os Hanes. Persumei Nisa is Davka has to be through the Shmiya. So men are chayiv in the Kriya and the Shmiya. Women are only chayiv in Shmiya. So according to the Avnei Nezer, the night Kriya wouldn't help you. According to the way the Avnei Nezer learns the Bahag, so women can't read the Megillah for men anytime, because they're always, fundamentally, they're on a different level of obligation. So 4 different explanations in the Hilchos Gedolos whether women can read the Megillah. That's a Meikar Hadin, that's how you stuck, there's no man who knows how to read the Megillah. So Meikar Hadin, a woman can read the Megillah, but obviously since to be Choshesh V'Shitas HaBahag, so therefore the meaning is that a man reads the Megillah.
Does the Bahag give a reason himself?
He writes Shmi, and the way the Rush quotes the Bahag, he says because men are chayiv in Kriyas HaMegillah, and women are only chayiv in Shviyas. That's the Lashon. So that's what the Rush claims to Lashon in the Bahag. That's why in terms of that, the Avnei Nezer fits in well.
That's the Avnei Nezer.
Yeah, that's what he's focusing on, the text of the Hilchos. The other one seems to be like, nice Lamdis. What does it have to do with the Hilchos Gedolos? What does Shmi and Kriya have to do with Divrei Kabbalah? I'm sure we think hard enough, we could connect it, but this one, the text, actually, Avnei Nezer, fits it much better. Just to point out, so we were mentioning the Mechias Amalek. There's a famous Rav Chaim that and that's on that whole Minchas Chinuch. There's many kashas on that. The whole share in its own right. Mechias Amalek for another time, but there's a lot of questions you could ask. The Minchas Chinuch and the Chinuch, and you get into the whole difference between one about with Nashim. Nashim are exempt from Mechias Amalek, but the Chayiv is Hayram, and we can give a whole share on that another time. But this to quote the Rambam. The Rambam himself seems to contradict this. The Rambam writes, and he talks about the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek applies even today. And then in the next line he writes, and he starts talking about the Zayin Amamim, the mitzvah. However, we no longer have the mitzvah today because for our Ovid Zichron, we don't know who they are. Sancheirib did his ethnic cleansing, and therefore we don't know who's from the Zayin Amim anymore. So everyone jumps. I mean, Chaspinach, the whole world jumps on the Rambam. Like, it's not like he wrote something in Hilchos Brachos and he forgot what he wrote. He didn't forget what he wrote either. But here you can't even entertain it. In the next halacha, he goes from one to the other. They say, what do you mean? The same way we don't know who the Zayin Amim are. We don't know who Amalek. You mean Sancheirib left Amalek alone? He left the Jews alone. We know we know our heritage, and he left Amalek alone. So obviously that's not what happened. So what's the pshat? How could the Rambam say from one halacha to the next? So that's what many do say against the Rambam. We don't know who Amalek is today. But the Rav Chaim, the Rav says over from Rav Chaim. I think Dr. Selevan claims that Rav Chaim never said it, but the Rav quotes B'Shem Rav Chaim. It's quoted in a couple. I saw it quoted in the Kol Sofayach. He also quotes the Rav Chaim, and the Rav quotes Rav Chaim that basically that the two types of Amalek. There's the genetic Amalek, someone bred. You go down. My mother was Amalek father. Biologically, that person was from Amalek. That's one type of Amalek. Then you have a theological Amalek. That we could debate on who fits or who doesn't fit into those categories. He doesn't give us any gedarim. But there's someone who has the shita basically to destroy.
Doesn't the Rambam point out exactly? Anybody who wants to destroy.
Yeah, but but not in this case.
In that seif right there, he in that halacha he brings.
Well, before when in the beginning of
he defines exactly who Amalek is. Anybody who sets out to destroy, and I think that's how he learns it, isn't it?
Right, that's right. But right, he doesn't. He said that in the beginning. Yeah, in the beginning. But then so Rav Chaim based on the Rambam, right. So he says that. But he explained the Rambam doesn't spell out
the theological Amalek. Then how can you say that we lost all? How do you say Bosonei Cherub?
No, that's the other sheet. No,
that's how you explain it.
No, that's the Minchas Chinuch rejects it. Minchas said, "What's the Rambam talking about? We don't know who they are anymore." And so I'm saying to answer what's the pshat in the Rambam, so that's what the Rav Chaim comes up with. And so the pure, unadulterated Amalek that we don't have anymore. You're right, Barav is Zichron. But anyone has the sheet of Amalek, that's the philosophy to destroy Israel, destroy the Jewish people. They have a din of it. That's why, if you notice in the Rambam, when the Rambam talks about the mitzvah b'zman hazeh, he leaves off rechush. We know there's a mitzvah not only to kill, but to kill all the livestock. The Rambam leaves it off. So the Kol Sofayach adds to the Rav Chaim. Maybe the Rav Chaim says it also that that mitzvah only applies to the people themselves. You don't have to destroy their properties and their possession. That was only a special din in the pure, unadulterated Amaleki. But if somebody says the shita, so then perhaps you don't have to kill the wife and kid. We could debate whether you have to kill the wife and kids also, or just the actual person in Amalek. So that's how Rav Chaim explains the difficult Rambam, and it's difficult in the sense that how do we know the Zayin Amim are, but we don't know the Zayin Amim are, but we do know who Amalek is. It's Klarav and Zichron. So therefore they point out that there's the two different types of Amaleki. we have the born,
It's actually, if you see the words, it's actually comes right out of the words of the. You could really read this.
Right, you wouldn't notice the reading of it. Then when Chaim brings it up, then when you go back,
Absolutely clear. Yeah, it becomes very.
Yeah, but it's to summarize. So we're discussing differences between Divrei Kabbalah and Rabbanan. This before I conclude. That's why, in fact, it's interesting. Dovev Yesharim, Dovev Meisharim is he was a gadol in New York around in the 1950s, and I think he died in 1962. He was one of the gedolim. He points out that we were discussing what's the definition of Divrei Kabbalah. So when we look at the different mitzvahs of Purim, everyone thinks, Megillah, that's the important mitzvah. I'm not saying it's not. But, Shalom, Shalach Manas, it's nice, we bring a bunch of them. So he wants to say that, he wants to say a big chiddush that perhaps that Mishalach Manas is on a higher level. That's really Divrei Kabbalah, not Megillah. Because he writes that to be considered Divrei Kabbalah, it has to be Derech Sivoy. It has to be given as a mitzvah in the Megillah. How do we learn out the Megillah? Bismanei and Likros, it doesn't say explicitly you read the Megillah in the Megillah. We learn it out from the Gemara learns out Suda, Megillah. It's not explicit about the mitzvah of reading the Megillah. But Ubishalach Manas Yeshurayim, Yonim, that's a specific sivoy. So he writes that perhaps that Megillah is only D'Rabbanan, even if you want to argue that Kriyas of Megillah is D'Rabbanan, but Mishalach Manas is the Divrei Kabbalah. If that's true, then perhaps one would have to be careful about a katan, sending a katan to, assuming you're not watching him go in terms of whether you could trust the chazak or whether you could trust the katan to do mitzvah, assuming Divrei Kabbalah, Divrei Torah, could you trust them to do? But in general, we assume we could trust the katan after the fact. If that's the Gemara, that he remembered doing it as a katan, so on a din d'Rabbanan we could do a mekel. But this comes out interesting according to this pshat that Mishalach Manas could be Divrei Kabbalah, and Megillah is only d'Rabbanan. But that's the tension in Megillah. It's somewhere in no man's land between the Raisa and Rabbanan, and the many more I didn't go into. The many other examples where you see this in Baal Tosef. You see it with an Onain. We saw it in the two Shechiyanus. I didn't even get into Suffolk with different, and all these different questions. This tension of where Megillah fits in terms of, because there are shittas that a woman can light candles for a man, but Mechaber doesn't quote a shita like that by Purim. So again, because maybe that's a Purim to be Divrei Kabbalah, while Chanukah is many examples showing the tension between D'Rabbanan and Divrei Kabbalah, and that's the famous Baal Hilchos Gedolos that women can't be motzi men. What's the four different possibilities in what he means, whether the Marcheshes, it's still lacking in the Hallel, that's why they can't do it. Or according to the Turi Even, they're only midrabanan and the men are Divrei Kabbalah. Or according to Or Sameach, it's a din in Zechira Samoach, Mechia Samoach, and therefore women can't do it for the man. Or like the Avnei Nezer, they're only chayiv in Shmiya. Presuming Nisa means it's a chayiv of Shmiya, versus the men's obligation is a chayiv Kriya. For whichever reason you accept, the minig is, that you should try to go to a Megillah where a man's reading, but push comes to shove, if there's no man to read, then you rely on a woman.